Again, I'm Dean Angelides. I'm a director at Esri. And before joining Esri 19 years ago, I was a business partner with Esri for 17 years before that. So I've been part of this industry, in a sense, for quite a long time. And so now I have the good fortune of actually seeing all parts of the world. We have a group of 87 distributor organizations around the world. They have a presence in 130 countries. I haven't been to all of them. But we have these very special relationships with these organizations. They're sort of these little mini Esris that are there to serve their customers and grow the market, do business, but mainly to help their customers be successful.
Your company has kept its focus on innovations exclusively in the field of laser scanning products. How do you see the collaborative value chain of usage of your products?
All right. Thank you very much. First of all, Ronda, thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind introduction. Very good morning to all of you. It's a pleasure and honor to be here on this panel. So my name is Johannes Riegl Jr. I'm running the North American side of the Riegl business. We are a specialized provider of high-performance LiDAR equipment, especially for aerial, unmanned, and mobile LiDAR applications. And you're right, we have specialized over the last more than 40 years now. Our company has been founded in 1978 by my father. So for all these 45 years, we have really stayed true to our roots. We have stayed in the high performance sector and have tried to be the best performing LiDAR in our special niche applications. And you asked me about collaborative approaches around that. So I was just reminded of that when I attended CES, and it was quite astonishing how companies who in the past have never interacted with each other now announce collaborations. And what does that mean for our industry, for our geospatial sector? So I do believe that for a smaller company like us, of course, the demand and awareness for digital twins is a huge advantage. And we all of us need to collaborate more, just as we have heard from about Trimble, Autodesk, and Esri. Even more of our companies in this industry need to work closely together, in my opinion, and take a less competitive approach. And my final thought on this topic is that I think one step in the right direction in our industry actually is the foundation of WGIC, the World Geospatial Industry Council. And this council really brings together some of the most renowned companies in our industry: Trimble, Autodesk, Woolport, Esri, many others are amongst the founding members. And now we have 42 members in WGIC and really try to enhance collaboration amongst the industry. Riegl has always been a supporter of this cause and always has been convinced that this is the right direction. So we have been a founding member of WGIC. And again, I think it's a very good development. And thank you.
Fantastic. All right, Juan, we would like to turn to you now to help us get to know you a little bit more. And specifically, I would love for you to talk about your unique business model where you manufacture EO sensors for large customers. And talk to us a little bit about your partnership network and tell us about how your partners help you in growing your business.
Very glad to be here in this GIS community sharing the conference for these 2 days. Satlantis is a company that was born in Florida 11 years ago and was born out of astrophysics. So we are people that understand the language of light, in particular, the light of the night. So we are astrophysicists. No? We have, let's say, a 50-50-50 rule. So we have 10 flight missions. They are all successful. 5 are full satellites. 3 of them are flying, or the last one, the third one will be flying next month, being launched from Florida. And the 2 next satellites will be launched in October. So this is the panorama of full missions. And then we have additional 5 cameras flying. One was for JAXA, another one in Japan, another one for the DoD in NASA here in the US. We have another one for ESA. And then we have 2 astrophysics missions, one for the moon and one for the dark matter research at ESA. So this is more or less let's say, the global perspective of the company. And I want to embrace the GIS community because we really want to change things. So from the Earth observation perspective of space, I think there's been changes in the offer. So I think Copernicus was the very big change that happened in 2012 when it all became data free, and it produced a huge revolution where space images started to get incorporated into GIS because of this really disruptive proposition. Then we had in the last 5 years different new space activities that have created let's say not thousands of satellites, but some few hundreds of satellites in Earth observation, multiplying 10 times the amount of satellites that were flying only 5 years ago, like, Planet, Satellogic, etc. But my question is, what is happening to the demand side? No? I think the demand, when we talk to some of you, you say, show me the data. Show me your data. No? What data do you have? And then I will see. What is the price? What is the quality? You talk about a few parameters of quality. So you talk about the resolution, the radiometric calibration quality, of course, georeferentiation, and 3-4 things. No, so there is a lot of technology hype, but in the end, the door to enter into the geo information is a very small door that has been frozen for 10 years in a culture of just getting data. So the problem is that we have been isolated or not connected for 10 years. And now it's the time to connect the need that you have for your different markets to the possibilities of technology. And that is when we say customer-centric, end-to-end missions. This is some I think, empty words many times. No? And we have to fill those words with reality. And that is why I think Satlantis' focus is to provide dedicated missions that just are tasking what the customer requires. And then I think if we really ally this way, we will change the game. I think the change that Satlantis wants to bring to the market is exactly this. No, we can now define a mission together. It's only a year and a half. We don't have to wait for 5 years. The investments that are to be made are much smaller, and we can do that together. So this is our perspective.
Jimmy, I'd like you to do much of the same, introduce yourself, and then Orbital Insight, I've been a big fan, and we were talking about some of the changes and the business proposition. So can you help us to understand a little bit more about your unique offerings and how collaboration has powered your data platform and the insights that you glean from it?
Thank you. So good morning, everybody. I'm Jim Crawford from Orbital Insight. So when I started this company, it was an interesting time. It was about 10 years ago. And I remember looking at every partner of Digital Globe. Digital Globe had a page of their website of all of their analytics partners. And they all used Esri, right? Even at that point, none of them used AI. It may be that some of you who have been in, from Ronda's question earlier, some of you who have been in the geospatial analysis field for 40 years, maybe you guys knew to use AI 10 years ago, but I couldn't find it on the web. I couldn't find footprints of it anywhere. So we went in and said, we need to do Google Books for satellite imagery. When I was at Google, I had this little project called Google Books where we scanned all the world's books. And we literally took a picture of every page of 20 million books, did OCR on the text, put it on Google search. And then we were able to understand, not only answer individual queries like where is this quote, but also look at broad questions of the evolution of the English language and of the evolution of society, because we had scanned every book. So the founding insight of the company was that if we have satellite imagery of the whole world, rather than looking at just 1% of that imagery, let's look at 100% of it. Let's use AI to look at 100% of it, and let's start to understand the trends and patterns. Because as was said earlier, the world's a really messy place. And when we talk about things like there's a recession or there's economic development going on in, Kenya but not Nigeria or what have you, that is a very broad generalization that sort of sweeps under the rug a tremendous amount of detail. But all that detail is present in the satellite imagery. So if we can understand what's going on in that imagery and use AI to count the cars and the trucks and the roads and the buildings and everything else, then we can aggregate that in a systematic mathematical way and really understand what's going on country by country, city by city, week by week, for economic development, for resource utilization, for global warming, for agriculture, for insurance, for national defense. And that's been what we've been trying to do now for a decade. We've focused on a lot of fundraising with VCs. We've focused a lot on building AI algorithms. We found out over time that originally we thought it was kind of like the old joke about how when the computer was invented, there's some famous person at IBM that said the world's going to need 5 computers. I honestly thought in the early days we were going to need 5 computer vision algorithms, cars, trucks, roads, buildings, maybe airplanes, and then we were done. It turns out, in fact, instead you need thousands. So we've been really trying to expand out the portfolio of algorithms, and we've been radically expanding, to your point about collaboration, we've been radically expanding the kinds of data we can work on. So not just EO, also SAR, also LiDAR, also thermal. But then beyond satellite imagery, AIS data for all the ships, ADS-B data from all the planes, anonymized cell phone data from all the cell phones, connected car data from all the cars. And it turns out that there are tremendous synergies between these different data sets. So if a customer comes in and wants to track, say, fracking activity in West Texas, you can do that in a really interesting way with a combination of thermal imagery, EO imagery, anonymized cell phone data, and connected car data. And the different data sets complement each other in ways that you can get a much more accurate picture of the actual rate of fracking in West Texas. Just as one example, there's dozens. And so collaboration has been fundamental to us from the beginning, because unlike these other gentlemen, we don't actually fly any satellites. All the data that we get is from satellite providers who are really critical partners, as well as other data providers for things like AIS, ADS-B, and cell phone data and other sources. And we've built our platform to make it very easy for our customers to analyze the data using AI and data science in our platform, as well as to bring in data that they may have already purchased, pull it into the platform, or integrate other data sources that we haven't yet thought of into the platform. And I think the future of the industry is incredibly bright. I think there is still so much about the world that we don't know. It's if you go look at the headlines in the newspaper, there's so many things that catch us by surprise. And in some sense, I don't want to say a failure of geospatial analysis, but it's an opportunity for geospatial analysis. Whenever there's a surprise, a recession happened that nobody predicted, a war happened that nobody predicted, economic change happened that nobody saw coming. We probably could have seen it coming as a community, and made that data available in an earlier way to decision makers in supply chain and government, and other parts of industry. And I think that's a huge opportunity for us to help, ultimately, to the comments made on the plenary panel this morning, to be the nerve center of the world and to understand the earth and what we're doing on into the earth, and to make it possible to much more efficiently and effectively manage this earth and the supply chains that we're creating on it.
Juan, I was reading up on Satlantis over the last few weeks, and I saw that you have recently signed an MOU with Airbus. And you piqued my interest and reminded me of reading about that when you said the light of the night, combining infrared and EO sensors on a platform. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Infrared is an incredible area of the spectrum. No? When you look at the Earth, the infrared is coming basically. Well, there's the first part of the infrared that is near the visible, the near infrared, and then the SWIR. But if you go longer in the thermal, the sun is not very relevant in terms of the energy that is sent, no? And it's the bodies that emit themselves these waves, no? So that we can capture, and that's it's amazing what temperature tells about the different phenomena, because just a car being placed in a place 6 hours ago will give you a footprint, and just a person passing an hour ago could give you a footprint. So in the end, the game is always the same. We need big apertures to provide higher resolution, so big machines, and we try to make these big machines small so that they are cheaper and so on. So in this case, we are opening petals of the camera in space that can be put in a smaller platform of, let's say, 100 kilos. So this is the partnership that we are doing with Airbus, and the experience is coming from astrophysics, because when we look at the night, we look at the stars. Then infrared has a different meaning. Infrared is the old light. It is the light of old phenomena that happened millions of years ago, and the detection that please don't lose any photon. This obsession of not losing any photon that you need to capture is more or less this rigor of technology that has been applied to look down and look at Earth and then provide this thermal imaging.
All right, thank you. Dean, we heard Jack and Andrew talk about the collaboration, the now collaboration with Autodesk, and how maybe that was rocky in the before times. Are there other collaborations that Esri is undertaking that you can highlight that help to fuel our industry and further our mission, our shared mission of making this world a better place and understanding that world?
Geospatial world has provided us a forum for collaborating here. So one of the collaborations that Esri has, it's like every day we have collaborations. And it's not really fair just to talk about some of the major industry collaborations, which we do have. My colleague Patty, who is here, who looks after not just national government businesses around the world, but she also is looking after the education sector, as we say. So one of the big collaborations that Esri has is with education. So we do grants to schools, K-12 schools, all around the world, no fees, to try to help students become spatial thinkers and how to use geography as a way to integrate information and solve even the problems that they have in their very own personal lives and in their neighborhoods and communities. I think the next sort of level of collaboration is with NGOs. I mean, NGOs are out to solve problems and do good for the world. And so we have very, very low cost or grants to many NGOs, and we have great collaborations of different types of NGOs in conservation, in humanitarian efforts, in water resources development, and so on. And so rather than them having to spend money on technology, they can put their effort into solving the problems that they're going to solve. I think we have business collaborations of all types.
And so grateful for all that you do and that Esri does to help with that next generation. Jimmy, I'm going to go to you and Johannes, the same question, as you both lead global organizations. So far, we've talked about, yay, we're all collaborating. Woo, it's wonderful. But really, now I'd like to hear from you. What is a barrier or a few of the barriers that are top of mind for you? And how could we potentially overcome it rather than just saying this is bad? Like, what's a way to go forward from there? So, Jimmy, I'll start with you, and then Johannes is coming down.
Sure. So I'll give you one simple but I think very powerful example. So we're talking about collaboration. I think it's helpful to distinguish between government and commercial. So when we're on the government side, if we go into an organization like the NGA, they will have already bought the imagery from a dozen different providers for the regions of the world they care about. And so collaboration is a matter of the NGA telling us and telling a satellite imaging company, a satellite operator company, to build an API and talk to each other. And we're fine. We're both fine. Okay, we can do that. We can collaborate on that. When we go into commercial, generally speaking, unless we're in some extreme cases like energy, where there's a long history of buying imagery, if we're looking at a supply chain problem or insurance problem, even an ag analysis problem, generally speaking, the customer has not bought the imagery, does not know how to buy the imagery, does not know whether they want LiDAR or whether they want infrared or whether they want EO, or whether they should get SAR. And what they have is a business question. And what they want is a cost-effective solution to that business question. And so we then, as the solution provider, have to go purchase the imagery. So what would be helpful to us in the commercial world is if we could build within the community a notion of pricing for a purpose. So and we've managed to do this occasionally with some satellite operators for some specific problems. We've been able to buy an image with a license that restricts us to only use that image for just counting cars in parking lots to analyze shopping behavior for hedge funds. I mean, we literally did that contract at one point and paid a much lower price for the image because we were contractually restricted to only do one thing with it. I think that for us as an industry to succeed in commercial, we need to start doing the same thing much more broadly. So I would love to see price lists, or at least the ability to informally collaborate on pricing that is where the contract and the utility of what I can do with the imagery is restricted to just this particular customer's problem, and the price per square kilometer of that imagery is thus much cheaper. As I say, doesn't matter for government because the government's already bought it all. Matters a lot for many of the commercial applications we're starting to work on.
Yeah, Rhonda, I wanted to give maybe one example of a successful industry collaboration in our case. So our partnerships are always, or have always been, extremely customer driven, always driven by customer demand. And recently at InterGeo last year, Riegl announced with Vexel Imaging that both companies are working together in integrating one system, so combining the best of two worlds, Vexel being the leader in aerial photogrammetry, and Riegl integrating a LiDAR sensor into their fully integrated solution. So really combining two different demands into one smooth integrated solution. And you're asking about the leading a global company. It sounds great. You know, we are still a medium-sized, smaller sized company. So we don't face the challenges that some of our big friends have here on the podium. You know, we have a few offices around the world. I find it hard to keep up with everything that's going on already. I cannot imagine how to deal with 87 offices. I only have a few to look after.
All right. Well, thank you, Dean, Johannes, Juan, and Jimmy, for a really enlightening, enjoyable, fun conversation. Thank you to Geospatial World for enabling us to have this. So let's give them all a big round of applause.